Part 21. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 201. The environment on the express train during the day was much better. It was not dark when they arrived at Pengcheng railway station safely. Even so, Wu Wei did not dare to delay after leaving the station, and rushed to the bus station with Ma Haidao. In the past, they always took the first bus from the bus station back to the county town. They did not know when the last bus was. If they missed the last bus, the money for the express ticket would be wasted. Fortunately, the two arrived early enough and took the second to last bus back to the county town. It was already past 7 o'clock in the evening when they returned to Bailun bus station with a bumpy ride. Wu Wei looked at the watch. At this time, the news broadcast had finished. Fortunately, as long as they set foot on the territory of Bailun, the two men had plenty of ways to go back. Even so, the master and apprentice rode the 28 bar from the courtyard of Bai Road and returned to Daowen village. It was already close to 9 o'clock. When the master and apprentice arrived at the fenced courtyard, they saw Xiaoyuan still at home, spending the Lantern Festival with Zishan and Xiaochun and watching TV. When she saw Wu Wei coming back, Xiaoyuan was overjoyed. After all, it was a holiday, and without him, she would always feel empty. Otherwise, she would not be here to spend the holiday with Xiaochun and Zishan. Xiaochun said with some distress, "Second brother, you are dealing with treasury bonds and ordering brick machines, rushing and rushing, how hard it must be on the road." Wu Wei waved his hand and said, "The hardship on the road is a small matter, coming back to celebrate the holiday with you is a big matter." Then he told Xiaochun, "Hurry up and take out the cash from Haidao's military coat, Zishan, get some food for Haidao to fill his stomach, and then go back." Xiaochun immediately took out the scissors to remove the stitches. Xiaoyuan accompanied Zishan to make dumplings and glutinous rice balls. After all, if Haidao didn't eat, Wu Wei certainly didn't eat either. How could she not be attentive to this, since she had to prepare for two people? Fortunately, it was faster to unpack than to sew. Xiaochun quickly swung her scissors and took out all the cash from Ma Haidao's military coat before the dumplings and glutinous rice balls came out of the pot. Then, while the master and apprentice were eating dumplings and glutinous rice balls, she continued to unpack Wu Wei's military coat. When the two of them had almost finished eating, all the cash was on the table. Even if she had known that her man's business was big enough and the cash he handled was enough, Xiaoyuan was still stunned. "I'm afraid I won't be able to earn so much cash in my life." Then Wu Wei reported a number. Xiaoyuan heard it and confirmed that more than 80,000 was indeed a huge number that she would never earn in her life. While Xiaochun and Zishan were counting the money, Wu Wei took out 10 big unity notes and stuffed them into the hands of his eldest apprentice Ma Haidao. Ma Haidao, who was wearing a military coat, was still polite and refused. But he couldn't resist his master, so he accepted it after struggling for a while. Not only that, he also remembered to ask, "Master's wife, are you going? If you go, I will keep you company." He wanted to save his master the trouble of running a trip. Xiaoyuan was stunned and didn't hear it at all. Wu Wei saw this and sent her away, "You go back first, I will send her off later." As soon as Ma Haidao left, Xiaochun and Zishan counted all the cash. Adding the 100 yuan just given to Ma Haidao, the total amount was exactly the same as Wu Wei's previous statement. Wu Wei nodded and said, "Put it away. I'll save it tomorrow." Xiaoyuan came back to her senses and said, "You make so much money from trading treasury bonds, why do you want to open a brick kiln factory and a furniture factory? I heard from my father that these two factories will require a lot of subsequent investment." Wu Wei smiled and found that Xiaochun and Zishan were also puzzled by this. Trading treasury bonds, although it makes money, it is not long-term. It can only last for a year or two at most. What should we do then? We can't just stay at home and eat our savings without working hard. Although the brick kiln factory and the furniture factory have a lot of investment now, they will soon be egg-laying chickens and can continuously make money for us. This is the long-term solution. And by the way, it will give Xiao-chun, master, fourth uncle, and everyone else work to do and make money. Why not do it? Hearing this, Xiao Yuyan suddenly felt that her man's image became taller. So that when the Lantern Festival Gala was over, Wu Wei stood up and wanted to send Xiao Yuyan back. She was not happy to leave. But he had to leave. There were many people in the village, and they were talking all the time. Xiao Yuyan stayed at home tonight, and the news would spread all over the place tomorrow. Of course, if Wu Wei didn't come back tonight, nothing would happen. But the problem was that he came back, and this matter couldn't be concealed at all. When he returned to the Chiao family compound, Master Chiao Wei and his mistress Chen Yuejuan had indeed gone to bed. It seemed that they didn't expect him to come back tonight, and they were mentally prepared for their daughter to live in the fenced yard. Chen Yuejuan came out with her coat on and opened the door, muttering, "Come back earlier if you want to come back. Do you have to come back so late? It's so dangerous in the middle of the night." Before she finished speaking, the door opened. Wu Wei interrupted her and said, "Master's wife, I'm sorry to bother you and master." Chen Yuejuan was delighted. "Oh, you're back. You've been busy all the time, but you still remember to send Yuyan back. You've worked so hard." Master Chiao Wu in the main room heard Wu Wei's voice. He immediately got dressed and got out of bed, and came out wearing a cotton jacket and said, "Come in and sit down, what are you doing standing at the door?" Wu Wei had no choice but to follow Xiao Yuyan into the yard, walked to the main hall, and handed a cigarette to his master. However, neither the master nor the apprentice smoked, but just talked behind his ear. "You came back so soon, and the brick-making machine was settled?" Wu Wei nodded, "It's settled. When he heard that I wanted to order a large brick-making machine, he was very polite and even invited us to dinner." While the master and the apprentice were talking, Chen Yuejuan served tea and poured water. After finishing the work, he had to go to Chiao Kuliang's room and get him up to say hello. Fortunately, Wu Wei had been watching and quickly stopped him. "Master's wife, I will say a few words to the master and leave. Don't call me third brother. It's not easy for him to run orders during the day." Turning around, he heard Xiao Wei say, "It's good to be settled. I see that the weather is getting warmer. Maybe before March, the brick kiln factory will be able to start work." The master and the apprentice chatted briefly for a few words, and Wu Wei decisively said goodbye. After all, there is no stove here, unlike at home, so it is not cold even with a sweater on. After riding the 28-inch bicycle back to the fenced yard, Wu Wei soaked his feet happily and wiped his whole body by the way, and then went to sleep comfortably. When he woke up, he felt refreshed. He turned his head and looked out the window. The sun was already high, and it must be at least 9 o'clock. In fact, he slept so soundly that he didn't even have a dream. The voices of Xiao Yuyan and Zishun came from outside. Although they were deliberately suppressed, Wu Wei could still hear them. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 202. Wu Wei dressed properly and opened the door. He saw Xiao Yuyan and his fourth sister Zishun looking at him. Seeing his energetic look, he was also infected and excited. Especially Xiao Yuyan, her eyebrows were full of spring, and the corners of her mouth were flying so high that she could hardly hold them back. "What are you talking about? So serious?" Wu Wei asked casually. Xiao Yuyan stood up and said, "We are discussing whether English will become a compulsory subject in the college entrance examination in the future." Wu Wei remembered this very clearly. In the previous life, Zishun graduated from a normal school and joined the work. She was secretly glad that she didn't go to high school and took the college entrance examination. Because the country had just included English as a compulsory subject in the college entrance examination, the difficulty of the college entrance examination was increasing. That year happened to be 1990, which was 3 years later, when Zishun graduated from high school. So Wu Wei blurted out, "Yes, definitely. English is becoming more and more important now." Qiao Yuyan did not refute, but turned to Zishun and said, "If you are really worried that English will hold you back, then take the college entrance examination directly after passing the exam in the second year of high school. As far as I know, English will not become a compulsory subject in the college entrance examination within 2 years." Wu Wei picked up the kettle on the 3-burner coal stove, poured it into a basin and added water to wash his face, while saying, "Hiding is not a solution. Now you are not in high school yet, it is the right thing to prepare early." Hearing this, Qiao Yuyan also changed to an encouraging tone and said, "Your second brother is right, Zishun, with your English foundation, as long as you study hard, even if English is added to the compulsory subjects of the college entrance examination, it may not become your shortcoming. And if you study hard from the first year of high school and prepare more seriously than others, when it comes to the college entrance examination, English may become your strong point." As expected of a teacher, he is right when he says positive things and wrong things when he says negative things. Zishun was urged to do so, and her fear disappeared immediately. Seeing that Wu Wei had washed his face, she volunteered, "Second brother, I'll bring you dumplings." The dumplings were warmed on the floor steamer in the kitchen. Soon, Zishun brought a full bowl of dumplings and a bowl of dumpling soup. Wu Wei took the dumplings and dipped them in the garlic vinegar dish on the table. They were so fragrant. After breakfast, he put on a new army green coat, took the cash he got back yesterday, rode on a 28-inch bicycle, and headed straight to the meat processing factory. The last time I saw Wang Jing and Yu Lily, they were still at home. But now that the spring festival is halfway over, Wu Wei estimated that the factory should start work. He rode the 28-inch bicycle all the way to the entrance of the meat processing factory, and sure enough, he saw that the security guard Xiao Gong had already started work. Recognizing Wu Wei, Xiao Gong immediately said politely, "Happy New Year, Boss Wu." Wu Wei handed over a pack of unopened Chinese wine and said, "Has the factory started working? Have Wang Jing and Yu Lily come to work?" With a pack of Chinese wine in his hand, Xiao Gong was a little bit at a loss. But he still answered Wu Wei's question first. "Director Wang came on the 8th day of the first lunar month. I heard that he opened the ham sausage production line first and studied different product batches and packaging. If you say more, we won't understand. As for Wang Changhua and Yu Changhua, they just came to work today." "Boss Wu, are you sure you want to find both of them?" Wu Wei nodded, "I'll find them all, so I don't have to call them one by one." Xiao Gong immediately said, "Okay, I'll call you now." Then Xiao Gong called and hung up quickly, "Boss Wu, please wait, Wang Changhua will be here soon." "Thank you for your hard work." Wu Wei handed over another Chinese wine. Xiao Gong then remembered that he still had a pack of unopened cigarettes on hand, and hurriedly said modestly, "Boss Wu, this is too expensive." Wu Wei had no intention of pushing or pulling him, but just threw the cigarette in his hand to him and said, "Why are you being polite to me? I will have to trouble you in the future. Take it." Xiao Gong quickly put down the box of cigarettes, hugged the flying cigarette and said, "Thank you, Boss Wu." A moment later, Wang Jing hurriedly arrived, followed by Yu Lily, who looked curious. Xiao Gong was surprised when he saw her. It is said that Boss Wu is so charming that he called 2 factory beauties over with just one phone call. And as soon as Wang Jing entered the guard room, she sent him out and said, "Xiao Gong, please go out and help us watch the door, don't let others in." Xiao Gong was a little surprised, but he couldn't resist the fact that the other party was the niece of Director Wan. He hurried out and closed the door by the way. Without anyone else, Wu Wei immediately put the cigarette in his mouth and took out a bag of cash from his arms. They counted out the cash corresponding to their treasury bond shares and the 5 points of commission they deserved. A total of more than 62,000 yuan. The two factory beauties, their families are not short of money. But it was the first time to see 2 or 3,000 yuan of commission in front of them, and they could pocket it. That feeling was completely different from handling tens of thousands of yuan in cash. No one can easily resist the charm of banknotes. Wu Wei even saw from the rise and fall of their chests that Wang Jing's strength should be stronger. Don't be stunned, count it. It was not until Wu Wei urged them that they came back to their senses. They glanced at each other first, and then began to count the money in piles. At this point, Wu Wei finished the cigarette in his mouth, but he didn't finish counting. But Wu Wei didn't refill his cigarette. Half of his butt leaned on Xiao Gong's glass table, patiently waiting for the two to finish counting. After a while, Wang Jing finished counting first. After all, her proportion in the treasury bonds this time was smaller. Then, Yu Lily also finished ordering smoothly, nodded to Wu Wei and said, "Yes, Boss Wu, exactly." After saying that, she couldn't help but ask, "It's just this commission, isn't it too much?" Sure enough, she had never made so much money, and Yu Lily felt a little uneasy. Wu Wei raised his eyebrows and smiled, "Don't worry, I sell treasury bonds through formal channels, you can take your commission without worrying about anything going wrong." Then he changed the subject and began to increase the intensity. "In addition, from now on, each of you will get me at least 100,000 treasury bonds every month." As soon as the voice fell, Wang Jing couldn't help but exclaimed, "So much?" The most she received in a month before the new year was only nearly 100,000. But that was before the new year when everyone needed money the most. After all, it's after the new year now, not like before the new year. Wu Wei nodded and said with certainty, "That's right, you have 100,000, and Lily also wants 100,000. If it's difficult, I suggest that you two develop 1 or 2 reliable downlines. At most, you can give them a commission of 1 or 2 points, but they must be reliable and know their background well, so as not to run away with the money. I believe this, it's not difficult for you two to do it." Wang Jing's eyes lit up. Yu Lily suddenly didn't think that the 5-point commission was too hot. But Wu Wei changed the subject and said, "If it exceeds 100,000, you can lower the price appropriately. I estimate that in a few months, the purchase price of treasury bonds will fall back." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 203. After leaving the meat processing factory, Wu Wei only had a little over 20,000 yuan in cash. "I took it directly to the bank and deposited it for 3 months. After it expires, it will be enough to pay for Boss Cheng's refractory bricks, and there will still be some interest money left." After finishing all this, Wu Wei went directly to the Bai Road courtyard. "I have to clean up everything inside and outside, and when school starts in Zishan on the weekend, I have to come back to live here again." But because Xiaochun had to work in the village department, he didn't want to go back and forth before the old house at home was demolished and rebuilt, so he lived in the fence yard first. 3 brothers and sisters have to live in 2 places. At that time, Wu Wei will have to run back and forth. After cleaning up the small courtyard, Wu Wei went to the old lady next door to report that she was safe. As a result, the old lady couldn't help but said, "You always talk to me about brick kilns and furniture factories. You take me to see them today." "Humph, don't try to fool me, I'm clear-headed." Wu Wei laughed and said, "Who wants to fool you? Who dares to fool you? It's a pity that the old lady is so stubborn." Wu Wei could only take advantage of the situation and said, "Okay, I happen to be free today, so I'll spare you the trouble and come with me." Mrs. Zhao seemed to have been prepared. She stood up and said, "Let's go now." Wu Wei said in surprise, "Don't you always hide those treasures of yours?" Mrs. Zhao glanced at him, said nothing, and walked out. "Okay, let me talk too much." Wu Wei followed him out and let the old lady lock the door of the main room and the small courtyard. Wu Wei then supported the car, waiting for the old lady to sit back and said, "Please hold on and sit tight, let's set off." Because he was carrying Mrs. Zhao, Wu Wei really didn't dare to ride fast along the way. It has been almost an hour since we wandered back to Daowen village. When Mrs. Zhao got out of the car, her legs and feet were a little numb, and she couldn't help but stomp her feet a few times. For those who don't know, they might think that the old lady is unwilling to give up her anger. The old and young men who were playing cards at the village gate and watching the fun all looked over and realized that this old lady was very powerful and they did not dare to provoke her easily. On the other hand, Wu Wei himself was more or less brave enough to speak out. So someone asked jokingly, "Boss Wu, where did you find this little old lady? She has a lot of airs." Wu Wei chuckled and said, "Isn't that right? The old lady is a national model worker who has shaken hands with the chairman and had a photo taken with her, so shouldn't she be a bit arrogant?" The man then changed the subject, "Oh, you have invited such an old lady here. Boss Wu, you are really awesome now." Wu Wei smiled and scolded, "Hey, I'll lend you some good advice." With that said, he followed the old lady's footsteps and walked towards the village factory. When Mr. Chiao in the factory saw this scene, he quickly dropped what he was doing and came out and said, "Xiao Wu, who is this?" As a result, Wu Wei didn't have time to answer. Miao Quan and Sun Ruyan from the finance office hurriedly came out and said, "Teacher Zhao, why are you here in person?" Taking advantage of the opportunity when the old lady was taken into the finance office by Miao Quan and Sun Ruyan, Wu Wei threw a piece of waza to Mr. Chiao and said, "This is the old lady Zhao I told you before, a senior accountant and a national model worker." Fourth Master Chiao looked surprised, "She is 70. She doesn't look like it." Wu Wei was surprised, "Does it look like he is 80? Fourth Master Chiao immediately laughed and scolded, "What do you think of your eyes? Look at the people in our village who are over 70 years old and have the spirit and strength of hers." Wu Wei clicked his tongue and said, "Her body looks pretty strong." "That's not true," Fourth Master Chiao lamented, "when I reach 70, I will be grateful to God to have half as many people as her. That must be possible." On the other side, Mrs. Zhao followed Miao Quan and Sun Ruyan into the financial office. After exchanging pleasantries, it was time to look at their account books. Miao Quan was suddenly in a dilemma. Fortunately, at this time, Wu Wei saw it and immediately came to Miao Quan's rescue. "The old lady is the consultant and expert I invited. She can read the account books at will." The two of us were smoking a cigarette outside. The old lady basically finished looking through their account books. Not only is it fast, but it also seems to have a few flaws. Miao Quan, who was in his 50s, was so frightened that he trembled and lowered his head to admit his mistake. Sun Ruyan could only listen and drink. Then the old lady came out, let Sun Ruyan support her and said, "Can I see your factory?" This question was obviously meant for Wu Wei. Wu Wei directly introduced Mr. Chiao to him and said, "The important work in the factory must be led by a professional. This is Mr. Chiao, an old carpenter. He will take you there." Mrs. Zhao nodded slightly at Fourth Master Chiao and said, "I'm getting old." Fourth Master Chiao walked over and said, "What are you talking about?" Wu Wei suddenly discovered, hey, this old lady seemed to be more polite to others than to herself. Simply don't go with him and wait in the courtyard of the village headquarters. Just then, Secretary Chiao came over. When he saw him, he asked, I heard that an old lady who is a national model worker is here. Wu Wei hurriedly sent Zhen Huazi over and said, "Old party secretary, you are so quick to hear the news." "Yes, we are going to the brick kiln factory in a while, how about you come with us?" Secretary Chiao confirmed again, "Is this really a national model worker?" Wu Wei nodded, "The photos I took with the teacher are on display at home. I can really see them." Secretary Chiao's face became stern, "Then you must stay with me until the end." Then he continued, "After we go to the brick kiln, let's invite her to dinner. You go and ask her to stay, and I'll take care of the banquet." Wu Wei hesitated, "Is it necessary?" Chiao Zishu said without hesitation, "It is necessary. You listen to me." In the time it takes to smoke a cigarette, Ms. Zhao came out of the workshop accompanied by Mr. Chiao Si. The look she gave Wu Wei seemed much warmer. Wu Wei shook his head, thinking it was his own illusion. Until Chiao Zishu poked his arm, he came back to his senses and said, "Old lady, this is our village's secretary Chiao. He will accompany us to the brick kiln later." Chiao Zishu quickly stretched out his hands, stepped forward and said, "Sister Zhao, welcome to our village to guide our work." Wu Wei couldn't help but be amazed. This respectful attitude, even the township head Yao Amen didn't treat him this way. Ms. Zhao was obviously also a person who had seen a lot of things. She said calmly, "Secretary Chiao, you are too polite. I will just take a look." "Thank you." After a simple greeting, everyone left the village office and headed straight for the Zishan brick kiln factory. A few days after the festival, there were a lot of firecracker debris left on the village road, and the roadside was full of cow dung that was blown to pieces by firecrackers. Secretary Chiao secretly regretted it and should have sent someone to clean it up earlier. Fortunately, Ms. Zhao had seen the world and didn't say anything until the 2 cars and 3 people arrived at the Zishan brick kiln factory. Qin Ziru, who was peeling radishes in the sun at the door, saw this and quickly threw the radishes in her hand into the basket. She came over while wiping her hands and said, "Old secretary, Boss Wu, why are you here? Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 204. Since Zhou Poppy was killed by his own kill, people in the village have always bypassed the Zishan brick kiln factory. A few years ago, when the construction of the Galen kiln was being carried out, Qin Ziru finally experienced the feeling of returning to the human world. "But I can't bear that good times don't last long." After experiencing more than a month of desertion before and after the new year. At this moment, Qin Ziru saw someone coming again, especially Wu Wei with the old party secretary and an old lady. That attitude is almost more intimate than meeting a relative. Even though she didn't know this old lady who was plain yet imposing. But Wu Wei and the old party secretary can be accompanied in person. How can one's identity be simple and easy? Old party secretary, Boss Wu, Happy New Year and welcome. Secretary Chiao immediately said, "This is Sister Zhao, who will be the general ledger accountant of the kiln in the future. Today we mainly accompany her to have a look on the spot." Qin Ziru quickly greeted Ms. Zhao again, "Aunt Zhao, welcome, welcome, warm welcome." Then he took advantage of the situation and asked, "Where does Aunt Zhao live?" "In the future, she will be an accountant at the kiln. If she needs a dormitory, she might as well live in my house. Not to mention that Widow Qin is a bit stubborn. At the very least, most people are far inferior to her in terms of her ability to kill snakes with a stick." Secretary Chiao raised his eyebrows. But seeing that Wu Wei didn't say anything, he declined and said, "Let's talk about it then, right, Xiao Wu?" Wu Wei had to say, "Well, in the future, the kiln will be equipped with dormitories and bathrooms. Before it is built, if the old lady comes over, I may have to trouble you." Qin Ziru understood it and said repeatedly, "No trouble, no trouble." Then he invited, "What about that?" Let's have some tea and rest at home. Wu Viang raised his hand and signaled, let's take a look outside first, and you can do your business. Okay, I'll go back and make tea first. After you guys finish reading, I'll come over and have a rest. After saying that, Qin Ziru left. Wu Wei turned his head and saw Mrs. Zhao looking at the outline of the entire Lunkil Foundation pit with a solemn expression. Secretary Jiao couldn't figure out the elder sister's state of mind at the moment, so he could only look at himself in confusion. Wu Wei looked indifferent. Anyway, no matter what the old lady thought in her heart, he was sure of her. At the same time, Mrs. Zhao's solemn face was tense and uncomfortable. For a long time, because of Jiao, she didn't like Wu Wei very much. Now it takes half a day to run down. She had to admit that this girl Jiao was right. Wu Wei, a country boy who loves to play, is definitely a capable person. For ordinary people, if they can run a furniture factory or a brick kiln factory, they are already considered capable and promising. This guy does it directly. In addition, he also led an engineering team to work on projects, which is equivalent to a three-pronged approach. He is only in his early 20s. The more shocked Mrs. Zhao was in her heart, the more tense her face became. She was afraid that Wu Wei would see it, and her tail would be raised to the sky. But the more she remained so calm, the more unsure Jiao Zishu felt. Accountant is always available. But model workers are not often found across the country. Turn your head and look at Wu Wei. This guy looks like he's convinced of the old lady. He doesn't know what he did to the old lady. After wandering around for a while, until Qin Ziru came out again and invited her, Aunt Zhao, Party Secretary Jiao, Boss Wu, the tea is ready at home. Come in and have a rest. So the group of 3 people entered the Zhou family courtyard with Qin Ziru's permission. Because Qin Ziru mentioned it just now, Mrs. Zhao also took a look at the layout of the Zhou family when she entered the house. As a temporary dormitory, the conditions are sufficient. After entering the main room, everyone sat down, drank tea and moistened their throats. Secretary Jiao felt uneasy and took the initiative to mention, Sister Zhao, don't look at the deserted kiln now, there is nothing. But don't worry, when the ice melts in spring, construction will start here soon. Not only that, Xiao Wu's kiln is equivalent to a large kiln factory, and it requires a lot of manpower. I almost finished it a few years ago. Secretary Jiao made a report, detailing everything. It's like reporting to the boss. Wu Wei didn't stop him either, so that he wouldn't have to worry about the topic to adjust the atmosphere. When the cup was finished, Qin Ziru refilled it and said, Aunt Zhao, Party Secretary Jiao, Boss Wu, if you don't mind, can we have a light meal at home today? Upon hearing this, Secretary Jiao immediately interrupted, Xiao Qin, stop working. The dinner party has been arranged in the village. Then he looked at Wu Wei. Wu Wei stood up and said, then let's go back first. I think it's almost time. After that, he walked out. A group of 3 people and 2 cars returned to the Jiao family compound. Lu Hong, the party secretary's wife, had already laid out most of the dishes for the table at home, while Jiao Moli was busy working inside and outside with a resentful look on her face. Seeing Wu Wei appear, the girl made no secret of it. Wu Wei smiled. The old party secretary arranged this meal partly to entertain Mrs. Zhao and partly to pave the way for her. As a result, the girl didn't know it and instead blamed herself. Not long after, both the 4th master and the 5th master came over, and accountant Li also came over. Master's wife Chen Yuejuan and Xiao Yuyan also came over. But the 2 women did not come to the table. Instead, they replaced Lu Hong and Xiao Moli and asked them to come to the table to accompany Mrs. Zhao. Isn't this obvious enough? Wu Wei smiled, and while no one was paying attention, he went into the kitchen and greeted his master's wife. He asked Yuyan again, why did you come back? The implication was that if you didn't come back, you wouldn't be drafted. Xiao Yuyan pouted and said, "The loudspeaker called me, how could I not come back?" Then he looked in the direction of the main hall and said, "I saw that she is the old lady next door to your county courtyard. Why is there such a big scene?" Wu Wei explained casually, "The old lady is an old accountant and a national model worker. I asked her to sit in the kill, and the old branch secretary arranged for Jasmine to go to the kill as well. I guess she will learn from the old lady." At this point, Xiao Yuyan nodded repeatedly and said, I understand, you go quickly, they are calling you." The voice of Master Xiao Wu came from the main hall. "It seems that the banquet is about to begin, and he is the only one missing." Wu Wei returned to the main hall and sat down. He saw Secretary Xiao holding up the wine cup and said, "Then let's start, Sister Zhao." Old Lady Zhao was a man of few words, and nodded when she heard this. She just kept looking at Xiao Moli next to her with scrutiny. Although she had seen Xiao Yuyan's profile in the county, she had never met her face. Looking at Xiao Moli, she thought this girl was Wu Wei's fiancée. So she didn't respond to Secretary Xiao's recommendation and introduction, and seemed a little unimpressed. Wu Wei's heart moved, and he shouted outside, "Teacher Xiao, come and toast the old lady with me." Then Xiao Yuyan appeared without knowing what was going on, and toasted with Wu Wei. Old Lady Zhao's expression eased up. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 205. On the table. After Mrs. Zhao clarified the situation, she suddenly felt much warmer towards Xiao Moli and Xiao Zishu. Everyone is a little confused. Xiao Yuyan even drank 2 cups of mutai inexplicably, which made her throat burn. "But I didn't take a few bites of food." But fortunately, Mrs. Zhao accepted Xiao Moli, a young girl, and the purpose of this meal was achieved. After having enough wine and food, to be on the safe side, Secretary Xiao even wanted to find a mule cart to send Mrs. Zhao back. But Mr. Zhao was a decent person, so she firmly refused. He held onto Wu Wei's 28 big pole and left. On the way back, Mrs. Zhao didn't say much when she saw Wu Wei. Obviously he can look proud and show off in front of him. But he didn't. Mrs. Zhao speculated like a child, "You kid, you have figured out 3 clues, and you are all successful. You must be very proud, right?" Wu Wei was riding at a slow speed and heard every word of these words really. "Old lady, where are you following this? Compared with the grand plan I envisioned, this little fuss now is like Xiao Xiao doing a small job, and Xiao Xiao who will be in charge of the finance of my group company in the future. There is such a big gap." Mrs. Zhao was satisfied. But Wu Wei said without mercy, "Grand blueprint, group company. Why don't you talk about transnational trusts?" Wu Wei laughed, "It is impossible for the kind of business I do to be a cross-border trust, but it is still possible to achieve the scale of one of the best in the country. Old lady, think about it, by then Xiao Xiao will be the financial executive CFO second only to me in a group of this size. A piece of cake. The whole thing revolves around Xiao Xiao." I heard that the old lady was secretly satisfied and elated, and even the sarcasm on her lips became less frequent. "There's no way, I can't control it. Ever since she started caring about Xiao Xiao, the old lady has been planning for Xiao Xiao. Even the usual habit of never leaving the front door or taking a second step has been changed. I often wander back and forth in the alleys to exercise. Because she also wanted to watch Xiao Xiao become a female elite in the workplace in Wu Wei's grand blueprint. In the blink of an eye, it's Sunday, February 15th at noon. Report on the start of school in the afternoon in the county. As the head teacher of the graduating class, Xiao Yuyan didn't come here today and went to school early. On Zishun's side, he and Xiaochun packed up their luggage and bedding the night before, preparing to take them to a small courtyard in the county to continue their day-to-day life. A simple lunch at home. Wu Wei rode on the 28th pole, and together with Zishun, they put their luggage and bedding on the camels in 2 cars and went straight to the Bai Road courtyard. Wu Wei had cleaned the small courtyard before. Once you put down your bedding, it's like checking in with your bags. It's still too early to finish all this. Zishun couldn't wait to go to school early. Wu Wei had nothing to do, so he just followed him there. After all, Jiao Yuyan mentioned before that Jia will move out this semester. The two of them have space to be alone. As soon as he arrived at the teacher's dormitory, Wu Wei was dumbfounded. This Ma Jia is still angry. After listening carefully, I found out that they had only been married for less than a month and had already had several awkward moments. I couldn't wait to move out while school was back in session, maintaining a Cold War attitude. In the final analysis, the Hao family is just a piece of shit. After getting married, Ma Jia discovered that this family was nothing and could not help. Jiao Yuyan sent Wu Wei downstairs, hugging Wu Wei's arm tighter as she walked, and said, "Thanks to you for showing up and saving me, otherwise I might not be able to withstand the pressure and marry into the Hao family. Now Jia, everything that happened to me will fall on me, I'm really scared when I think about it." Wu Wei was not surprised by this, but he didn't say much. After all, the first week of school was the busiest time. Even if she had a dormitory alone, Jiao Yuyan probably wouldn't have time to spend time with him. Besides, no construction sites in the county have started yet. Although Wu Wei lives in a small courtyard, he still runs to the village during the day. On the 16th, it was almost noon when Wu Wei returned to the village headquarters. Just when Secretary Jiao came back from a trip to the countryside, he looked frustrated and helpless. He quickly handed the cigarette over and asked, "Old party secretary, what's going on?" Secretary Jiao took the flue and said, "Hey, aren't I going to the township power supply station to see if we can expand the capacity of our village's transformer and stabilize it so that your furniture factory can expand its production capacity?" Wu Wei nodded. The result was not good. Secretary Jiao snorted and said, "Old Zhang from the power supply station was designated by Mayor Yao. He won't eat anything soft or hard, and he won't eat oil or salt. This analysis is not unreasonable. After all, the village disapproved of Yao Amen regarding the brick kiln factory. It is very possible for Yao Amen to interfere in the power supply issue." Wu Wei thought to himself, this is really a troublesome matter. Fortunately, the brick-making machines in the brick kiln factory this time are driven by diesel engines and are not affected by the power supply. As for this furniture factory, if it really doesn't work, we should move to the outskirts of the county to build a large factory and ask the county power supply bureau for resources. This was the retreat the two of them had discussed earlier. Secretary Jiao was not surprised. "I just heard Wu Wei mention the diesel engine-driven brick-making machine." Secretary Jiao then asked by analogy, "You said that we can directly build a diesel generator set to supply power to the furniture factory. Is that possible?" Wu Wei laughed and said, "It's not impossible. After all, the electricity bill in the village is not cheap now, and it has no advantage compared to the cost of diesel power generation. But the investment and construction of diesel generator sets are no easier or simpler than building a factory in the suburbs of the county." So he continued, "It's possible, but it's not necessary." Jiao Zishu thought about it and it was right. If it wasn't for getting rid of Yao Amen, there was really no need to make such a big investment. And what if Yao Amen suddenly relaxed after you made such a big investment? That would be a bigger joke. Then the village really can't help you in this matter. Wu Wei waved his hand and said, "It's okay, Jiao Zishu, as long as it can be solved with money, it's not a problem." Wu Wei waved goodbye to Jiao Zishu and came to his master's house. He saw Jiao Wei moving a small dining table under the eaves, spreading out the drawings of the rotary kiln, and studying there. Wu Wei stepped forward and handed over a cigarette, saying, "Master, I have some new ideas about the drawings of this rotary kiln." Master Chiao Wu took the cigarette and said, "You have a new idea." Ever since Wu Wei proposed the waste heat utilization system last time, by extracting the cooling heat of the bricks as a partial drying heat source, Master Chiao Wu has seen the wonderful ideas of this apprentice. After the master and apprentice lit up the cigarette, Wu Wei just said, "It's like this, our kiln factory is dirty and tiring, it is necessary to build a bathhouse. Especially in winter, after a day's work, you must take a bath." Master Chiao Wu felt relieved. "This is easy, just build a bathhouse next to it. As long as it doesn't increase the complexity of the rotary kiln, everything will be easy." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 206. In a blink of an eye, it was Wednesday, the rainwater solar term. It actually started to rain, but it was not even the first month of the year yet, and the rain that fell from the sky and hit people's faces was cold ice rain, real ice and rain. Hearing the rustling noise outside, Wu Wei couldn't sleep either. He simply got up from the bed and said to Zishun, who was washing up, "Well, I'll go out and buy some breakfast. What do you want to eat?" Upon hearing this, Zishun's mood of being annoyed by the ice rain was immediately swept away. She cheered and said, "I want to eat tofu brain, fried tofu buns, and drink soy milk." Good guy, this girl actually likes to eat tofu. What's wrong with this? Forget it, as the second brother, Wu Wei didn't force it. He took out an oil paper umbrella, put on rain boots, took 2 pots and pans and went out. Because of the rain, the sky is darker than usual at this time. Wu Wei went around the east end to Bai Road, first went to Xiaofan fried bun shop, then went to Sun's breakfast shop, and finally got the 3 things Zishun liked to eat. At the end, he passed by the newsstand and asked for another newspaper from Old Wei. When he returned to his own courtyard, Zishun had already tied her hair and was sharpening her chopsticks, ready to go. When he saw what his second brother had spread out, he couldn't help but say, "Why did you buy so much, second brother? Do you think I'm a pig?" Wu Wei directly divided a portion for one person and said, "What are you thinking about? You eat first." Then he took the tofu bun for one person and the remaining soy milk in the pot and went to the next door. Old Mrs. Zhao had reached her age, and people slept less. She often got up earlier than Zishun, who went to school. But from morning to night, she was too little active, and her stomach never felt hungry. So no matter whether it was breakfast, lunch, or dinner, she didn't want to eat much. She had to be tempted by delicious food. When Wu Wei heard Zishun wanted to eat tofu buns today, he remembered that old lady Zhao also liked it. As expected, when she saw the fragrance of tofu buns in Wu Wei's hand, old lady Zhao's mouth was watering, but she still said stubbornly, "I'm just about to buy it, why do you have to make this trip?" Wu Wei looked at the rain curtain dripping from the eaves and gradually became denser and said, "It's raining so hard, you'd better stay at home. Tell me what you want to eat, I won't go anywhere today and make it for you." Old lady Zhao was secretly proud in her heart, but she always felt that this sounded so awkward. This kid is too domineering. No wonder Chiao Chiao was eaten to death by him. But Mrs. Zhao, holding the tofu bun in her hand, still said unyieldingly, "Don't think of ordering me around by controlling my stomach. I have to be paid for being your general accountant." Wu Wei waved his hand and said, "Even if you don't want to be paid, I still don't dare to hire you." When the old lady ate the tofu bun, Wu Wei poured all the remaining soy milk in the pot into the bowl. After this back and forth, Wu Wei touched the edge of the bowl and found it was a little cold. It's really hard to deal with the old lady's cold pot and cold stove. But now televisions are not very popular, and microwave ovens are even more rare, and they are expensive. Fortunately, as the popularity of the tofu bun subsided, Mrs. Zhao didn't complain. Let Wu Wei go. When Wu Wei returned to his own courtyard, he saw Zishun still holding a bean bun in his mouth, and was about to go out in a hurry. Wait for me a moment, I'll take you there on my bike. It's just right that you're holding an umbrella, so you won't get wet. One person riding a bike and the other holding an umbrella is naturally much better than riding a bike and holding an umbrella at the same time. Zishun sat diagonally on the back seat of the 28-inch bicycle, trying to raise the oil paper umbrella higher, wanting to protect her second brother from the wind and rain. But this would be useless for her. The cold wind blew diagonally, and the raindrops were also flying around. In fact, Wu Wei, who was riding a bike, was not much better, and simply said, "Take care of yourself, I have to wait until I get back to change clothes. Let's spend some money to eat lunch and dinner near the school, and I'll pick you up after the evening self-study." Came back from the gate of the county middle school. Wu Wei changed his half-wet coat, hung it under the eaves, and changed into a dry one. Then he cooked the duck he brought from the fence yard. The spring rain was always falling. He occasionally looked after the fire, and with a newspaper, he cooked the old duck stew. If he put some spring bamboo shoots in it, it would be even more delicious. Unfortunately, Wu Wei didn't get it, so he could only cut 2 pieces of old tofu at home. Even so, the tofu absorbed the soup of the old duck stew, and the taste was exactly the same after it entered the mouth. When he served it to Mrs. Zhao, he almost burned the old lady herself. After lunch, Xiang Hui came over in the drizzle. He wore a raincoat that was shiny, and it was obvious that he had been in the rain a lot, so that the mud spots on the raincoat were washed away. Wu Wei stood up to greet him. "Why are you here? I haven't been back to the village for just 1 day, and you found me here." Xiang Hui took off his raincoat and hung it under the eaves to drain water, saying, "What a coincidence, I have saved some treasury bonds these days, and I was afraid that my family couldn't keep them, so I sent them to you." Wu Wei handed over a cigarette and poured him a cup of hot tea, saying, "Auntie and uncle still won't let you touch it." Xiang Hui put the cigarette behind his ear, held the hot tea in his hand, and shook his head. "No relatives and friends at home, all come to me secretly." Hearing this, Wu Wei immediately knew what was going on. "I'm afraid that Secretary Xiang and his wife knew about it a long time ago, but just turned a blind eye." When Xiang Hui warmed up his hands, he took out a large bag of treasury bonds from his arms. It didn't seem like much, but the large amount accounted for a lot, so the total amount added up to nearly 50,000. Wu Wei subconsciously touched his pocket. "You really have a lot this time. I have to go to the bank to withdraw money for you." "No, brother," Xiang Hui hurriedly stopped him, "just treat it like other people, and give it to me after you change it into cash. I have already said it over there." Wu Wei nodded. "In that case, I give other people a 5% commission, and I will do the same for you." Upon hearing this, Xiang Hui was a little caught off guard and declined. "I can't accept it, brother." He was still stuck in the mindset of helping others. To exchange treasury bonds is to help others, and he didn't change it. So Wu Wei asked, "What's the matter? Outsiders can take it, but you, a family member, can't. If you are asked to take it, just take it. If Xiaochun says something bad about you, I will take care of her. Besides, you are not young anymore, you should save some money for yourself, so that it will be convenient to spend." Half-heartedly, Xiang Hui could only agree, "Thank you, brother." Wu Wei wrote him a note and said, "Take this, and cash it when I return from Shanghai. Brothers should settle accounts clearly." After doing all this, Wu Wei saw the old duck pot next to him and said, "Have you eaten? I'll serve you a bowl of soup." Xiang Hui naturally said that he had eaten. but Wu Wei still served him a bowl of soup and let him drink it to warm himself up before leaving. After all, they were all grown ups, and they ate at 12 o'clock and were hungry at 12:30. Drinking a bowl of soup was really a piece of cake. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 207. After finishing the old duck soup, Xiang Hui wiped his mouth and suddenly felt extremely stressed. Brother, your cooking skills are so good. I'm really afraid that when Xiao-chun passes away in the future, I won't be able to use my cooking skills. Wu Wei casually said, then let Xiao-chun do it, she is good at her craftsmanship. How can that be done? Xiang Hui said immediately, she is more capable than me now. Dozens of female workers are managed obediently by her. After getting married in the future, I will definitely be controlled. Wu Wei smiled and said, you always let Xiao-chun control you and dominate you. How bad it is for your uncle and aunt to see you. You have to think carefully about this. Yes, Xiang Hui sighed and fell into silence. When his body was warm and he was sweating a little, Xiang Hui came to his senses and gave Wu Wei a cigarette first. Then I put on my poncho and walked away in the drizzle. Wu Wei looked at his watch and saw that it was almost time for extracurricular activities at school. He simply warmed up the old duck, put it in a thermal bucket, then put on his poncho and rode straight to the county. I stood under the eaves of the teacher's dormitory downstairs and waited for a while. I saw Qiao Yuyan wrapped in a ski jacket and holding a black umbrella, rushing over. As soon as he saw Wu Wei, he was surprised and said, Jia just moved out today, and you already knew about it? I didn't tell Zishun either. Wu Wei lifted the thermos bucket in his hand and said, isn't this a coincidence? I'm here to give you the old duck pot. Qiao Yuyan rolled her beautiful eyes at him and said, only a ghost would believe you. Wu Wei looked innocent. But without any delay, he followed Qiao Yuyan upstairs and into the dormitory in a grand manner. As expected, Qiao Yuyan's belongings were the only thing left in the dormitory. Wu Wei put down the thermos bucket, watched Qiao Yuyan take off her ski shirt, rolled up her sleeves and washed her hands and said, Teacher Ma has been having a little quarrel for the past 3 days and a big quarrel every 5 days. Even if she moves back, how many days will she be better? Qiao Yuyan showed her white wrists and said, it's different this time. Jia is pregnant. Now the Hao family has to obey her and don't dare to make her angry. Wu Wei slapped his thigh and sighed, oops, her son got the first step. Qiao Yuyan wiped her hands and came over, rolling her beautiful eyes at him and saying, I don't see how anxious you are on weekdays. Why are you fighting for your son now? Wu Wei looked at the sky outside and said, with the weather like this, it would be good to start construction on the small building as early as March. I'm not in a hurry on the surface, but I don't say I'm not in a hurry on the inside. Qiao Yuyan picked up the spoon, took a spoonful of soup and sipped, no matter if it is a small Western-style building or a fenced courtyard, I have never mentioned this requirement to you, have I? Wu Wei sat closer, took Qiao Yuyan's arm and said, I know you don't dislike it, but I must give you a perfect new home. The fence yard is not worthy of you. Anyway, I let you decide. Qiao Yuyan pouted and said, well, this old duck is pretty good. Not bad, right? Wu Wei looked proud. When you get pregnant, I will cook it for you every day. When half of the bucket of old duck pot was drunk, Qiao Yuyan touched her belly and felt that she couldn't eat any more and said, I'll give you the rest, don't waste it. Wu Wei put the person on his lap and said, I'm not hungry for old duck soup now, I'm hungry for honey. Qiao Yuyan felt her whole body go limp and breathed out hot breath, I knew you had no good intentions when you brought the soup. When the extracurricular activities ended, Wu Wei did indeed start activities. Qiao Yuyan was allowed to put on her clothes hurriedly, and she scolded, can't you be gentler? The bed will fall apart due to your tossing. Wu Wei did not deny it and said, indeed, the bed in your school dormitory is too weak. I will change it for you to a better one later. Xiao Yuyan spat and said, stop thinking like that. How should I behave if my colleagues see me? So Wu Wei had no choice but to take a step back and said, then I'll give you a better one after you get married. Xiao Yuyan raised her neck full of strawberries and said, that's even more unnecessary. I'll designate you to live at home when the time comes. As soon as I saw the embarrassment on my neck in the mirror, I immediately changed into a turtleneck sweater to cover it up. After the rain, the weather turned sunny. The temperature also rose little by little. But it was still cold in the morning and evening, so people were sighing because they hadn't gone out in the first month of the year. Wu Wei had nothing to do during the day and returned to Master Chiao's house in the village. But I saw that fifth Master Chiao had already begun to gather various people and allocate their respective positions and tasks after spring began in March. At the same time, Secretary Chiao was not idle either. Anyone in the village who had some ideas would not forget to come over for a visit. Even on Saturday, Wu Weigang was about to go back to the village for a walk from the Bei Road courtyard in the county. He unexpectedly saw Xiao Moli appearing at the door. This guy is extremely jealous when his enemies meet. Wu Wei only said, why are you here? Xiao Moli was so angry that she jumped up and said, who is here to find you? I'm here to see Mrs. Zhao. The guy was strutting and bravadouing. Unfortunately, even so, the scale is far less than half that of Xiao Yuyan. Wu Wei smiled, pointed to the next door and said, the old lady is next door. Just when Xiao Moli was about to push the cart over, Wu Wei said again, you are considered an elder after all. It is a rare time for you to come here, and you come empty-handed. This sentence made Xiao Moli's face turn red. Born into a party secretary's family, how could she not even understand this common sense of human relations? But it was always delivered to her home by others. Her family rarely delivers food outside. Or even if they gave it away, Xiao Zishu and Lu Hong didn't let her know about it. Blushing, Xiao Moli felt her pockets. After searching for a long time, she took out 5 yuan. In fact, 5 yuan is not a small amount. Buying 2 kilograms of sugar or something like that can be considered a gift. But Wu Wei couldn't help but sighed, it's really a small amount. Buy 2 kilograms of melon seeds and eat them with the old lady for an afternoon. Not only can you eat half of them, but you can also eat 2 of the old lady's remaining teeth. This is too mean. Xiao Moli is a yellow-haired girl, how can she withstand such sarcasm? She immediately said angrily, lend me some, I will definitely pay you back. Wu Wei took out 2 big unity notes and handed them over, saying, then you must pay it back. I have no friendship with you. Xiao Moli was so angry that her teeth itched, but she had to continue, I will pay you back when I go back tonight, just wait. It was obviously a repayment, but it sounded like an appointment for a fight. After leaving the Bei Road courtyard, Wu Wei went to the cement factory. Seeing that the work was about to start in March, he had to take care of all the joints. Fortunately, with the support of Mr. Zhong and the halo of good reputation, everything went smoothly wherever he went. After returning from the cement factory, he went to the east of the city to see Boss Chang. After all, he still owed him money for refractory bricks. Although it was justified to delay the payment, it should be reassuring every now and then, right? After a busy day, he returned to the Bei Road courtyard. Xiao Moli had gone home long ago. Wu Wei rested under the eaves for a while, and waited for Xiao Yuyan and Zishun to finish school, and then returned to the village together. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 208. On the way back, there were 3 people and 2 cars. Xiao Yuyan left her early Akun car in the Bei Road courtyard and sat in the back seat of Wu Wei. She put her right arm around Wu Wei's waist and inserted it into the lapel of her clothes, which not only warmed her hands but also stabilized her figure. After all, In front of the student Zishan, Qiao Yuyan still wanted to save face, so she was too embarrassed to sit on the front bumper and huddled in Wu Wei's arms. In this way, we returned to the fence yard. Zishan turned down the intersection and returned to his home. Wu Wei had to ride a little further to take Qiao Yuyan to the Qiao family compound. As a result, once people leave, they fail to leave. The master's wife, Chen Yuejuan, specially cooked a large table of dishes for the sake of her precious daughter. In addition, the third child, Qiao Kuliang, came back early enough. The whole family gathered together for a reunion dinner. Wu Wei couldn't refuse, so he didn't want to spoil his fun, so he used Qiao Yuyan's wash basin and towel to wash his face and hands. Then he sat down with Master Qiao Wei and told him about the cement factory. The master and apprentice were communicating. I saw Qiao Kuliangxing hurriedly came over with a bottle of Mao Tai and wiped the mouth of the bottle with his sleeve. Facing Master Qiao's look, he quickly defended, "Dad, this is not your inventory. I bought it today. Mom can vouch for it." Chen Yuejuan was coming in with a plate of stir-fried leek and vermicelli. When she heard this, she didn't testify, but said bluntly, "Why are you two so clear-eyed?" The younger sister Qiao Yuyan also added insult to injury, "That's right, third brother. You might as well not be so clear-cut, so you can save some money for a wife." Only Wu Wei understood the reason and said, "Third brother, the furniture factory delivered another batch of furniture today, right?" Qiao Kuliang suddenly said gratefully, "The boss still understands me. I'm afraid no one will challenge me when I'm decorating at home. It's better now." Wu Wei answered the conversation and finally didn't let his words fall to the ground. Mr. Qiao Wu was full of heart. He looked at the bottle of Mao Tai in his son's hand and said, "I need to drink 2 more cups of the wine that the third brother bought me for the first time." Wu Wei smiled. While the master really gave his son face, he also did not forget to benefit himself. Neither Shi Niang nor Yu Yan noticed it, or had no objection. After Qiao Kuliang poured his father's wine first, he stood up and poured it for Wu Wei. As he spoke, Wu Weiban picked up the wine cup and asked him to pour it. When he went to the master, he sat down and said, "You can bear it when he pours you wine." Wu Wei had no choice but to sit down. He could bear it. But the third brother is so attentive, and he will definitely have something to do later. Sure enough, after 3 rounds of drinking, Qiao Kuliang mentioned it, "Brother-in-law, next time you go to Shanghai, can you invite me to come with you? Don't worry, I will pay for the return trip myself." Without waiting for Wu Wei's reaction, Qiao Yuyan's beautiful eyes rolled around, "What is so good about Shanghai that the third brother will never forget?" Wu Wei was preparing to prevaricate for Qiao Kuliang. As a result, he blushed and couldn't hide it anymore. In fact, it's no wonder. Now Qiao Kuliang has been running orders in the furniture factory for 2 months and has really made money. When this man has money in his pocket, he naturally becomes more courageous and has more ideas. Fortunately, Qiao Kuliang was very keen to avoid the part about Qiao in his frankness. That's right, after dinner. On the way to send Wu Wei away, Qiao Yuyan still couldn't help but ask, "Do you also want to find a top student in the university to try?" Wu Wei said decisively, I don't want to, I'm not." Then he grabbed the beautiful woman's waist and said, "You have enough honey to taste for a lifetime." Qiao Yuyan blushed. The word honey has become a unique code word between the two of them. Whenever she mentioned it, she couldn't help but feel hot. So in the next second, Qiao Moli appeared from behind the tree. It didn't scare Wu Wei, but it shocked her. "Sister, why are you hiding here so late at night?" Qiao Moli pointed at Wu Wei and said, "I'm looking for him." Qiao Yuyan looked at Wu Wei suspiciously. In order to prove his innocence, Wu Wei didn't bother to cover up for Qiao Moli. "She asked me to pay back the money, right?" Qiao Moli looked reluctant, but still nodded, "Yes." Then he took out 2 large Unity cards from his pocket and handed them over. Wu Wei took it, stuffed it in his pocket, turned around and said to Xiao Yuyan, "Okay, go back, I'll get in the car and leave." Seeing her cousin present, Xiao Yuyan couldn't help but patted Wu Wei on the back and said, "Well, slow down on the road." After Wu Wei got in the car and walked away, Xiao Moli said quietly, "You can't even guard me. He will become the big boss in the future. What will you do?" Xiao Yuyan gently put her arm around Xiao Moli and said, "Sister, I just shook him up a little. Actually, if he is so promising, there will definitely be many women around him in the future. How can he be able to prevent him by just relying on every precaution? But having said that, you can't stop him from getting ahead just because he wants to recruit women, right? That would be too selfish after all." Xiao Moli was stunned. Compared to myself, this cousin's mind is really big. Whether it's psychological or physical. Wu Wei returned home. Not surprisingly, my home turned into a temporary theater again. The neighbor's children, who had been coveting it for a week, were managed by Zishun to behave well and sat in front of the big color TV. Even if he saw Wu Wei coming back, he would not move. Zishun crossed the children and came over to ask, "Second brother, have you eaten?" Wu Wei took off his coat and hung it up, saying, "I ate at master's house." "How did you eat alone?" Zishun said casually. Third sister came back, and went to the factory to work after eating. No one spoke all night. The next day was Sunday, and the sun was shining brightly. It felt a bit like spring. The vegetable garden, which had been bleak for a month, began to show some green. Although it was all weeds, it still embellished this early spring. Wu Wei yawned and got up. Standing at the door of the main room, through the glass door, he saw Zishun busy turning the soil in the vegetable garden outside. This girl thought she didn't do enough farm work, and she looked clumsy in her every move. Even the shovel she swung up, along with the soil she got, sprinkled all over herself. Wu Wei quickly washed up and had breakfast. He quickly rolled up his sleeves, spit it into his palm, took the shovel and said, "Who asked you to do this?" Zishun handed over the shovel, but did not forget to betray him. "It was my third sister. She said that this piece of land should be turned over first and aired out so that it can be planted." When Wu Wei dug with the shovel, only the surface layer of soil was soft. The bottom was still frozen and hard. How could a girl like my youngest sister dig it? However, this little bit of frozen soil will be almost gone after 7 or 8 days of drying in today's weather. By then, it will be the beginning of March, when the spring is warm and the flowers are blooming, and it is time to start construction. But now that Xiaochun has mentioned it, let's dig it? It's more or less a burden for Xiaochun to spend some effort now. Otherwise, when the thaw starts in early March, the construction site and the kiln will be busy, and Xiaochun will have a hard time taking care of it alone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 209. Fortunately, the vegetable field to be dug was only a little more than 1 fen. It was about 70 to 80 square meters, with 2 or 3 ridges. As a result, just half of the digging was done. Xiao Yuyan came down the village road with a handbag. Wu Wei stuck the shovel in the ground, held it with his hand to take a breath and said, "Why are you here?" Xiao Yuyan saw that there was no one around, so she picked up the handbag and said, "I told Zishun to come and take a bath. There are not many bathhouses these days, and the sanitary conditions are worrying. Xiaochun and Zishun really don't like to go there. They would rather hang a shower curtain at home and wash it than go to the village." Fortunately, since the heating stove was installed at home, the temperature in the house has risen, and the bathing experience has also improved. When Wu Wei heard this, he was immediately full of energy. As a result, the vegetable field was dug up, and the two hadn't finished washing. He was so bored that he could only turn over all the land in the vegetable garden in front of the door in one go. When the land was turned over, the two of them had finished their bath. The three of them simply cooked a pot of noodles and made a cover with all the leftovers from last night and poured it on top. That's how they got through lunch. Even so, such a rich cover of noodles would have been unimaginable last year. In the afternoon, Wu Wei lay under the eaves of the corridor, stealing half a day of leisure. In the main room behind him, Qiao Yuyan was tutoring Zishan and reviewing. Before they knew it, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was almost time to go back to school. Especially as Qiao Yuyan was the class teacher, she had to get to school earlier. Wu Wei had to ride his bike to send people back to the Qiao family compound, and then carry them back after they were packed. Fortunately, there was everything in the teacher's dormitory, so there was no worry about food. Qiao Yuyan didn't need to bring anything except a few sets of clothes to change. The two returned to the fenced courtyard from the Qiao family compound, and Zishan had almost finished packing. So they returned the same way they came yesterday. When they arrived at the small courtyard on Bei'ai Road in the county, it was too late to cook, so Wu Wei took the two to the Bei'ai Road restaurant to eat a bowl of beef noodles. When the two returned to school together, Wu Wei finally had some free time. He poured all the hot water from the 3-burner coal stove into a bucket and took a big bath. The next day was a new week. God was particularly kind, and it was sunny for 3 consecutive days. The clods of soil that were turned out from the vegetable garden at the gate of the fenced courtyard were thawed and became soft. So on Wednesday morning, February 25th, Qiao Wei couldn't wait to take some people to the Zishan brick kiln factory and started work ahead of time. Wu Wei found the Qiao family compound, but didn't find anyone, so he ran over as his master's wife said. As expected, when he came over, he saw it. Not only Master Qiao Wei was here, but even Secretary Qiao came here in person. The brick kiln factory, which was originally desolate and deserted, immediately became bustling with activity. Wu Wei parked the car and saw that the huge brick kiln factory site had already been covered with a lot of lime lines by Master. According to his memory of the blueprint, Wu Wei could vaguely distinguish the location of the bathhouse, office, and the entire brick kiln factory wall. He took out the cigarettes and distributed them to Master and Secretary Qiao. Wu Wei then took out a lighter and said, "Master, why did you start work early?" Mr. Qiao Wu said with a face full of longing and enthusiasm, "A year's plan begins in spring. I keep an eye on the land every day. As soon as it thaws, we will start work immediately. The sooner the better." Secretary Qiao also echoed, "Starting work one day earlier means opening the kiln one day earlier. Opening the kiln one day earlier means producing bricks one day earlier, and the villagers can make money one day earlier." As he was talking, Qin Ziru, wearing an apron, brought a large bowl of tea and said, "Boss Wu, have a cup of tea." Wu Wei was surprised, but still took it. Then he heard Secretary Qiao sigh, "This widow Qin is really good. She keeps the 2 children of Fatty Joe and insists on not remarrying." Wu Wei raised his eyebrows and didn't know what to say. But he was complaining in his heart. Could it be that this woman can change her nature? But Wu Wei didn't think too much about it. He already had Qiao Yuyan, a talented future wife, so there was really no need to think about a young widow with 2 children. After drinking half a bowl of tea in one breath, he heard Secretary Qiao ask, "When does Sister Zhao plan to come? I'll ask Jasmine to come with her then." Wu Wei laughed and said, "You guys started the work so suddenly that I really didn't inform the old lady. Let's just wait until tomorrow and bring her over." Secretary Qiao immediately said, "Then I have to arrange for someone to vacate a room for Sister Zhao. The specifications must be in place and cannot be lower." Wu Wei disagreed with this. But the old secretary was willing to make arrangements, so he didn't stop him. Putting down the big bowl of tea and looking at the construction site of the rotary kiln, he saw that all the straw mats that were originally covered had been turned over to the side. The brick wall on the foundation pit has been built. Bit by bit. In a blink of an eye, a day passed, and the wall of the rotary kiln did not grow much higher. Before leaving work, Master Chiao Wu still reminded everyone to put all the straw mats back. Although the ground had almost thawed. But no one could guarantee that the temperature would suddenly drop to zero. Fortunately, the next day, early in the morning of the 26th, the weather was still as warm as yesterday. Early in the morning, Wu Wei knocked on the door of the old lady Zhao next door and saw that the old lady had been waiting in the main room for a long time, with a basket of treasures for office accounting beside her. "Let's go, old lady, I'll take you there myself." Mrs. Zhao snorted softly. She would never dare to sit on someone else's 2/8 pole. But sitting in the back seat of this guy, I felt extremely at ease. Not only that, along the way, this kid really talked a lot and made people laugh, and even made a big cake for her, an old man who was used to seeing the wind and rain. "Old lady, as soon as the kiln factory develops tomorrow, I will directly equip you with a car. Go to get off work and get off work smoothly every day, so that you can enjoy the treatment of a leading cotter." Mrs. Zhao curled her lips and looked disapproving. But my heart was filled with joy. Even if this is a lie, it still makes people happy to hear it. The key is that there are still people who are willing to coax you. This is actually the most rare thing when you grow old. But you still have to fight. As long as you don't sell my old bones, I will be grateful. I don't want the treatment of leading cotters anyway. Wu Wei smiled. "I understand. Let Chiao take the exam in Shanghai later and drive you back. I'll see if you can sit down or not." Unexpectedly, Mrs. Zhao was particularly sober and said, "When Chiao finishes her studies, she will be more than enough to be a financial section chief. If you let her drive a big car, wouldn't that be overkill? I won't allow you to abuse Chiao like this." Wu Wei twirled his teeth and said, "I'll just say it casually. Besides, old lady, let me tell you clearly, within 20 years, driving will become a basic skill. Even if she doesn't drive for you, Chiao will have to take the driver's license exam for herself. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 210. Mrs. Zhao doesn't want to think about what will happen 20 years later. After all, she might have hung it on the wall at that time. But Wu Wei's mention of letting Chiao have a car made her suddenly feel that the subsidies she had received over the years were not enough. This money, compared to the food and clothing expenses of ordinary people, is naturally abundant. But compared to the cost of a four-wheeler, which can easily cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, it is really a drop in the bucket. However, these idle stories were all casually spoken by Wu Wei, because he was afraid that the old lady would be too quiet along the way, so quiet that she would fall asleep and then fall out of the back seat. How could he have imagined that the old lady was so angry and could think so much in one breath? Not long after, Erba Gong arrived at the village road crossing of Zishan brick kiln factory. Turning from the village road to the entrance of the kiln, there is a gentle slope of about 100 meters. Wu Wei originally thought, carrying the old lady up in one breath. As a result, the old lady grabbed his collar and said, "Put me down first and let me move my legs and feet. This is naturally better." Wu Wei put one foot on the ground and slowly lowered the 28-inch bar under his butt. It was so crooked that the old lady's legs and feet touched the ground, and there was a seamless transition. When the old lady walked around to the car, he got out of the car and pushed behind her. As soon as they were halfway up the gentle slope, they saw Xiao Moli coming down to meet Mrs. Zhao, which was called warm and polite. But Mrs. Zhao relaxed all the way to the ground. When he saw this girl Xiao Moli, she couldn't help but straighten her figure again. Not long after she picked it up, she saw Qin Ziru, who was busy with things, turning around to greet her. Ms. Zhao's nerves became tense. No better than not knowing. It's really lively. Normally, she said she didn't like the boy Wu Wei, but facing this boy, she had never been so worried in her heart. In contrast, the two girls, Chiao Moli and Qin Ziru, are more enthusiastic than others, and they both want to please others. But it just made Ms. Zhao feel uneasy. I really wanted to tell Wu Wei, but I was afraid of being laughed at by this guy. Wu Wei really didn't pay attention to these details. As soon as he entered the construction site, his attention was drawn to the huge will-kill site. As the brick walls of the will-kill gradually grow taller, the outline of the entire brick kill emerges. Not to mention that the earthen kill that cost 2 lives before was not comparable. Even if we look at the entire county, I'm afraid no brick kill factory can compare. Wu Wei is obviously not the only one who feels the same way. After wandering around for a while, Master Chiao, who finished arranging the work, felt even deeper. I'm not boasting. If this kill is really built, it will definitely be second to none in the county. It's so beautiful. If it can be burned and the red bricks are sold far and wide within the county, you will have nothing to worry about in your life. Wu Wei smiled, Master, I'm still so young, how come I don't have to worry about anything in my life? When I marry Yuyan later, I will let her live in a small foreign-style building, drive a car, and go out often all year round. Travel. Although these are all good words, Fifth Master Chiao still couldn't bear it and said, she wants to go to heaven, and you also build a ladder for her. Wu Wei laughed, of course, marrying a wife is just for pain. Fifth Master Chiao waved his hand and said, just get used to her. Come back and wait for her to ride on your neck, but don't come to me to complain. Talking means talking, laughing means laughing. No one took this seriously. Half a day passed in the blink of an eye, and as it was approaching noon, Boss Cheng pedaled his car and wandered over. Wu Wei was busy at first and didn't see him. This old Cheng actually caught Qin Ziru, who was walking in and out, and chatted happily. It wasn't until Wu Wei was reminded to come over that Boss Cheng became serious and quickly handed over a cigarette. Boss Wu, I heard that construction has started here, so I came here to see if there is anything else you need. Wu Wei took the cigarette, looked at Qin Ziru's leaving figure, and asked without answering, Boss Cheng, are you really lying? Don't let your wife know, I won't cover for you. Boss Cheng's old face turned red, and then he quickly handed over the fire and said with a sneer, Boss Wu, I just happened to be in the right situation. I've had some fun and used real swords and guns. How dare I? Wu Wei returned his best look, protected the fire, lit a cigarette and said, it's a few days ahead of schedule here, so it's not a big problem. It's about the construction materials at the cement factory. Please pay more attention. Wait. As we enter March, I will inevitably have to run in both directions. Boss Cheng took a few puffs of cigarette, then held it in his hand and said, how did I hear that you are planning to set up a furniture factory in the suburbs of the county? You are very well informed, Wu Wei said in surprise, and then did not hide it, I do have this idea, but I don't have a precise formula yet. When I have a precise formula, I will tell you whether this matter will be settled. Don't worry if it's in someone else's hands. That's what I want. Boss Cheng suddenly smiled brightly, what about that? I'll be the host at noon today. Let's find a place to have a drink. Wu Wei waved his hand and said, we are old partners, why do we need this trick? Besides, I am still busy. Even so, Boss Cheng still said, I'll keep it in mind for you when you have time. In a blink of an eye, the 28th of the month has arrived. When work was over, Master Chiao pulled Wu Wei and said, you're not going back to the county today, are you? Come on, let's have dinner at home. Wu Wei just pushed into the car and said, I won't be staying in the county today, but I have to send the old lady back first. Master, don't wait for me when you have dinner. If anything happens, I will come back from the county. But fifth Master Chiao waved his hand and said, no, 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 go and come back quickly. I'll wait for you to eat. Wu Wei had no choice but to take a step back and said, at most, leave me some food. Don't wait for me, master. I'm carrying an old lady on my bike, so I can't go any faster. Chiao Wei said no more, just waved his hand and said, go, go. Then Chiao Moli sent old lady Zhao over, and at the end she solemnly reminded Wu Wei, you ride slowly, don't bump and hurt Grandma Zhao. Not only Wu Wei found this strange, but even Chiao Wei couldn't help but grumble. Moli, you said this, is it appropriate? Does Xiao Wu need you to point fingers at him? However, Chiao Moli didn't care, but asked old lady Zhao a few more words of concern. Old lady Zhao nodded hurriedly. When she sat on Wu Wei's back seat, went down the west mountain, turned onto the village road, and headed straight to the county, she felt relaxed immediately. When Wu Wei asked, you have been coming to the kill for so many days in a row, can you handle it? Old lady Zhao habitually retorted, if I can't handle it, will you let me go? Wu Wei shook his head and said, of course not. I finally found your treasure, how can I let it go easily? Old lady Zhao said angrily, you are such a heartless person. I sent old lady Zhao home in one breath, turned around and went to the small courtyard on Bei'ai Road, and sure enough, I saw that Zishun's car was gone. I turned around and locked the door, and went back to Daowen village.